All right, so anyone listening probably wants to get ahead of the curve, right? When it comes to global business, I mean,
Well, yeah, of course.
and you sent over this report,
Oh, yeah.
Business Ready 2024 from the World Bank,
Uh-huh.
and it's fascinating. Let me tell you, it's not like those typical dry, economic analysis reports.
Right.
This is really insightful stuff. Like it gets into what makes economies flourish
Yeah,
or, what makes them struggle.
it really does.
It's really interesting.
What's interesting is this Business Ready 2024 report is a total, it's
Hmm.
a whole new thing. It's replaced the World Bank's old Doing Business project,
Oh, really?
but it goes so much deeper. It's much broader.
Yeah.
It's looking at how well countries set the stage for, businesses to really thrive,
Okay.
which ultimately benefits everyone, not just the company.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah.
They didn't mess around with the research either, right? They brought in thousands of experts.
Oh, no, they did some serious work.
Yeah.
Tons of firm-level surveys.
Why?
This is serious data,
Yeah.
which means we can really have some confidence in these insights.
For sure. So one of the first things that jumped out at me was how they evaluate countries. Business Ready 2024.
Uh-huh.
Be Ready, for short,
Yeah.
focuses on three key pillars:
Yes.
regulatory framework,
Right.
public services,
Yep.
and operational efficiency.
Imagine those like the foundation of a house.
Okay.
You need all three for stability.
So regulatory framework seems pretty straightforward, right? Like, are the rules clear?
Yeah.
Are they fair? Do they encourage businesses to operate responsibly?
Uh-huh.
But public services, in a business context, that's interesting. I wouldn't necessarily connect those two right away.
Yeah, you're right. It's not always obvious,
Yeah.
but it's so crucial.
Okay.
Think about it this way. It doesn't matter how good the laws are if the government's not providing the tools and the infrastructure
Right.
that businesses need to actually make use of them.
Okay.
So, we're talking about digital services,
Mhm.
reliable utilities, things like that.
So it's like having a state-of-the-art car, but no roads to drive it on.
Yes.
What good is the potential if you can't actually use it?
A perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And that leads perfectly into that third pillar, operational efficiency,
Right.
which is really how smoothly things are actually running on the ground.
Okay.
Can businesses get stuff done without running into a wall of bureaucracy?
Right.
Or are they constantly bogged down, just by red tape?
And here's where things get really interesting and maybe a little controversial. One of the big takeaways, for me at least, is that Be Ready
Yeah,
doesn't just look at how easy it is to do business in a country.
right.
It's also evaluating the quality of the regulations.
Yeah,
That's a big shift from those old Doing Business reports.
absolutely. And it gets to the heart of what actually makes for a healthy business environment.
Okay.
A good example is worker protections.
Uh-huh.
Now, regulations like these might add a little bit of complexity for individual companies,
Okay.
but they create a fairer playing field. You have a better trained workforce
Uh-huh.
and ultimately a more stable and a more productive economy in the long run.
So they're saying sometimes regulations that businesses might actually complain about
Yeah.
could actually be good for the economy as a whole.
That is precisely what they're suggesting.
Mm-hmm.
And it challenges that traditional view
Interesting.
that less regulation automatically equals a better business environment.
Okay.
Be Ready really digs deeper. It recognizes that nuance.
I'm starting to see why this report is causing such a stir. It's definitely more sophisticated than just a ranking of, who has the fewest rules.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But here's a trend they uncovered.
Okay.
That's a little concerning. And they're calling it the public services gap.
Oh.
And they found that across the board, countries are much better at writing good laws than they are at actually delivering the public services to make those laws effective.
That's a head scratcher. Why is there such a disconnect between good intentions and the resources to actually back them up?
That is the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And to understand it, we have to consider things like funding,
Yeah.
political will,
Yeah.
even the capacity of governments to deliver these services effectively.
So even if a country has amazing laws on the books,
Right.
if the public services aren't there to support them, businesses are still going to struggle.
It's like having a beautiful blueprint for a house,
Yeah.
but not having the skilled labor or the materials to actually build it.
Right.
The potential is there, but the execution falls short.
All right. So public services matter. Big time. What else is jumping out at you from these early chapters?
Well, they highlight digitalization as being a key factor for economic success,
Okay.
but they found that progress on this front has been incredibly uneven,
So some countries are racing ahead while others are stuck in the, digital dark ages.
essentially.
Yeah.
Countries that have embraced things like e-government services, online business registration, digital payment systems,
Okay.
they're seeing major benefits.
It makes sense. Streamlining those processes cuts down on bureaucracy, makes things more efficient. Why are some countries,
Yeah.
even wealthy ones, dragging their feet?
That is a great question.
Eh.
Part of it might be resistance to change or a lack of investment in digital infrastructure,
Mm-hmm.
but whatever the reason, it's a missed opportunity.
It's like they're choosing to walk when they could be flying.
Yep.
What about environmental sustainability? Is that on Be Ready's radar?
Oh, absolutely. And they find a similar pattern.
Okay.
Lots of good intentions, but mixed implementation.
Okay.
A lot of countries have strong environmental laws in place,
Uh-huh.
but when it comes to putting those laws into practice,
Yeah.
things get a little murky.
It's one thing to say you care about the environment, right?
Mhm.
But it's another to actually incentivize businesses to operate sustainably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For example, they found that while a ton of countries require environmental impact assessments for construction projects,
Okay.
very few actually offer incentives for truly green building standards.
It seems a bit backwards. Like they're saying we care about the planet,
Right.
but we're not going to make it easy for you to actually build in a way that protects it.
It highlights a disconnect between policy and practice,
Yeah.
which we see in many areas of sustainability.
For sure. So we've got regulations, public services, digitalization, sustainability.
Hmm.
What other big themes are emerging from this report?
Well, they make a really strong case for the importance of gender equality.
Okay.
They argue that when women have equal opportunities to participate in the economy, everyone benefits.
Makes sense.
But I bet there's a big obstacle.
You hit the nail on the head. There is a significant lack of what we call sex disaggregated data, which
Yeah.
is basically data that's broken down by gender.
Right.
And it's lacking in many countries.
Yeah.
This makes it incredibly difficult to measure progress, to identify specific challenges,
Right.
and to design effective policies to promote gender equality.
So it's not just a social issue.
Right.
It's an economic one as well.
We need that data to really understand how gender inequality is impacting businesses
Yeah.
and holding countries back.
Precisely. But here's a bit of good news.
Okay.
The report doesn't just focus on, the usual suspects,
Mm-hmm.
the wealthy nations.
Right.
They highlight several developing economies that are punching above their weight in certain areas.
I love that it busts the myth that creating a business-friendly environment is something that only rich countries can afford to do.
Right.
Yeah.
For instance, Rwanda is praised for its exceptional public services,
Okay.
while Colombia stands out for its robust regulatory framework.
Uh-huh.
And Georgia is getting a lot of attention for its impressive operational efficiency.
Wow.
It really shows that progress is possible regardless of a country's income level.
So even with limited resources,
Yeah.
countries can still make strides if they focus on the right areas
Exactly.
and implement smart policies. What stands out to you so far? What's piqued your interest?
It's fascinating how the report really emphasizes this interconnectedness. Countries that excel in one area,
Mm-hmm.
they tend to perform well in others.
It's like a ripple effect.
Exactly, like a chain reaction.
Mm.
Think about it. Improving something like market competition
Okay.
that can make it easier for new businesses to get off the ground.
Right.
That leads to more jobs,
Yeah.
a more dynamic economy,
Uh-huh.
and then that positive momentum
Right.
can spill over into other areas.
It's not about finding like one magic bullet solution.
Right.
It's about creating a whole ecosystem
Yeah,
that supports business growth from multiple angles.
precisely.
Mm-hmm.
The report dives into several specific areas.
Okay.
And one that really caught my eye is business entry.
Oh, interesting.
It examines how well countries create an environment
Okay.
where entrepreneurs can actually get their dreams off the ground.
So let's talk about those crucial early stages
Yeah.
of a business. What are some of the key ingredients for success?
Well, the report found that streamlining registration processes, ensuring clear regulations,
Mhm.
and providing easy access to information
Makes sense.
can make all the difference.
Right.
These factors can be the deciding point between a company thriving
Right.
or struggling from the outset.
It's about removing those unnecessary roadblocks and allowing passionate people to take that leap and start something new.
But I imagine it's not just about making things easy.
Right. You need some security, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're right. It's also about security.
Okay.
Having robust systems in place
Mm-hmm.
to verify identities
Yeah.
and prevent things like shell companies
Right.
that could be used for illegal activities.
For sure.
A secure and transparent business environment
Yeah.
benefits everyone, not just the entrepreneurs.
Transparency builds trust,
Yes.
which is essential for any healthy economy. Now, what about business location?
Okay.
Seems pretty obvious.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing the report goes deeper than just picking a cool spot for your storefront?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Access to customers,
Right.
transportation, reliable utilities.
There.
Those are all important factors.
Mm-hmm.
But Be Ready goes beyond the surface
Okay.
and looks at how regulatory frameworks
Okay.
and public services impact a business's ability to acquire a location.
So it's not just about finding a great space.
Right.
It's about navigating the complexities of
Yes.
property rights, zoning regulations,
Yeah.
even things like environmental permits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the report really stresses the importance of a well-functioning
Great.
land administration system.
Okay.
Clear property ownership records,
Yeah.
efficient processes for transferring titles,
Mhm.
mechanisms for resolving land disputes.
Okay.
These things can make or break a business.
Right. Especially in those early stages.
Especially in those early stages, yeah.
It sounds like a messy or corrupt land administration system could be a major liability
Oh, absolutely.
for a country trying to attract investment.
Uncertainty breeds hesitation,
Makes sense.
and that's the last thing a growing business needs.
Right. So shifting gears a bit, let's talk about utility services. I think we all know how frustrating it is to deal with unreliable utilities in our daily lives.
Right.
But imagine trying to run a business under those conditions.
The report highlights that unreliable, inefficient, or expensive utility services
Yeah,
can be a massive drag on economic growth.
that makes sense.
It's not just about keeping the lights on for households.
Right.
It's about powering businesses,
Uh-huh.
giving them the tools to operate effectively.
This ties back to that public services gap we discussed.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's all connected. Governments that invest in modernizing their utility infrastructure
Yeah.
and ensuring a reliable supply of electricity, water, internet.
Uh-huh.
They're essentially investing in the success of their private sector.
Exactly. Now, another area where Be Ready offers some compelling insights is labor regulations.
Okay.
This is a topic that can spark some heated debates,
For sure.
but the report takes a really balanced approach.
Yeah, it's tricky. You want to create a system
Yeah.
that protects workers' rights
Right.
without stifling business growth.
Right.
So how does Be Ready navigate that tension?
Well, it acknowledges that while certain labor regulations
Okay.
might increase costs for some businesses,
Huh?
they can also lead to a more stable,
Okay.
more motivated,
Yeah,
and more productive workforce overall.
makes sense.
Think about things like minimum wage laws,
Okay.
health and safety standards,
Yeah.
protections against unfair dismissal.
Those regulations create a fairer,
Yes.
more equitable society
Uh-huh.
and ultimately a stronger economy in the long run.
Precisely. It's about finding that sweet spot
Yeah.
where workers feel valued and protected,
Uh-huh.
but businesses still have the flexibility
Right.
to operate efficiently.
Mm.
Now, another key element is financial services.
Okay.
This is about how well countries provide access to capital and create a secure and efficient financial system.
I imagine this is especially crucial for startups
Yes.
and those small to medium-sized enterprises
Uh-huh.
that might not have a ton of resources to begin with.
You're absolutely right.
Hmm.
Access to finance is the lifeblood
Right.
of any growing business.
Yeah.
The report looked at factors like the strength of credit infrastructure,
Okay.
the ease of getting loans,
Uh-huh.
the prevalence of digital payment systems.
So it's about equipping businesses with the financial tools they need to thrive
Yes.
while also safeguarding consumers
Uh-huh.
and promoting stability in the financial system as a whole.
Exactly. And digitalization is playing a huge role in this space.
For sure.
Countries that have embraced things like online banking, mobile payments, digital credit scoring systems,
Okay.
they tend to have more inclusive and efficient financial systems,
Yeah.
giving more people access to the resources they need.
It makes sense. Removing those barriers can unlock a lot of potential.
Yes.
Now, in today's globalized world,
Right.
businesses need to be able to compete on an international level. So how does Be Ready address international trade?
It recognizes that international trade can be a powerful engine
Okay.
for economic growth.
Yeah.
But it also acknowledges that trade barriers,
Sure.
cumbersome customs procedures,
Uh-huh.
inefficient logistics
Right.
can make it incredibly difficult for businesses to participate
Right.
in the global marketplace.
So it's about reducing friction in the system,
Yeah,
making it easier for businesses to move goods and services across borders.
exactly. The report emphasizes the need for streamlined customs procedures,
Okay.
efficient border management,
Uh-huh.
transparent regulations.
Makes sense.
It also highlights the growing importance of digitalization in trade,
Oh, really?
like using electronic documentation
Okay.
and online platforms for customs clearance.
So it's about creating a world where trade flows smoothly
Yes.
and businesses, no matter where they're located,
Huh.
can connect with customers and suppliers around the globe.
Precisely.
No way.
Now let's talk about a topic that often makes people groan: taxation.
Yeah.
No one loves paying taxes.
Right.
But Be Ready makes a compelling case for why a fair,
Okay.
transparent, and efficient tax system
Yeah.
is absolutely essential for a healthy business environment.
It's not just about collecting revenue, right?
Right.
It's about creating a system
Yeah.
that is predictable,
Uh-huh.
understandable for businesses,
Right.
so they can plan accordingly
Yes.
and feel confident that they're being treated fairly.
Exactly. The report looks at the complexity of tax codes,
Okay.
the efficiency of tax administration,
Yeah.
and even the prevalence of digital tax filing systems.
Okay.
They found that overly complex or unpredictable taxation
Yeah.
can stifle business growth,
Uh-huh.
encourage tax evasion,
Right.
and ultimately erode trust in the government.
It creates this atmosphere of uncertainty and suspicion, which is the opposite of what you want
Right.
in a thriving business environment.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about taxes,
Uh-huh.
but let's be honest. Disagreements are inevitable in the business world.
They happen.
Yeah. So how does Be Ready address dispute resolution?
They highlight the critical need for mechanisms
Okay.
to resolve disputes
Yeah.
fairly efficiently
Yeah.
and transparently.
Okay.
A well-functioning dispute resolution system
Mm-hmm.
is essential for a healthy business environment
Right.
because it provides a clear and predictable framework
Okay.
for addressing conflicts.
So instead of businesses getting bogged down
Yeah.
in lengthy legal battles,
Uh-huh.
they can resolve their differences quickly
Right.
and get back to focusing on what they do best.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just about speed.
Right.
It's about fairness as well.
Of course.
The report looked at factors like the efficiency of court systems,
Oh.
the availability of alternative dispute resolution mechanisms
Mm-hmm.
like arbitration and mediation,
Right.
and the enforceability of contracts.
Yeah.
These are all critical for ensuring that businesses have confidence in the legal system
Makes sense.
and that they feel that their rights will be protected.
It creates a level playing field
Yes.
where everyone knows the rules
Uh-huh.
and feels confident that they will be applied fairly. Now, speaking of a level playing field,
Okay.
let's talk about market competition.
All right.
We all know competition is good for consumers,
Yes.
but it's also essential for a dynamic
Absolutely.
and innovative business environment.
The report stresses that effective regulations
Uh-huh.
and well-functioning public services
Yeah.
are crucial for fostering competitive markets.
Okay.
They look at things like antitrust laws,
Okay.
merger control procedures,
Uh-huh.
regulations that prevent the abuse of dominant market positions.
So it's about making sure that big companies
Yeah.
don't squash the little guys
Right.
and that new businesses have a genuine opportunity
Oh.
to enter the market
Yeah.
and challenge the status quo.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And it's not just about keeping big companies in check.
Right.
The report also highlights the importance of protecting intellectual property rights,
Okay.
promoting technology transfer,
Mm-hmm.
and ensuring fair bidding for public contracts.
It's about creating an environment where innovation can flourish.
Yes.
And the best ideas,
Ah.
regardless of who comes up with them,
Yeah.
can rise to the top.
Exactly. It's about creating a dynamic marketplace
Right.
where businesses are constantly pushing each other to be better.
I like that.
Hmm.
Now let's talk about a topic
Okay.
that might not seem as exciting,
Right.
but is incredibly important: business insolvency.
Okay.
It's not the most glamorous topic,
Right.
but I'm guessing the report argues that a solid insolvency system
Yeah.
is actually crucial for a healthy business environment.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
A well-functioning insolvency system
Yeah.
isn't about punishing businesses that fail.
Yeah.
It's about providing a safety net, creating a framework for restructuring financially distressed companies,
Okay.
giving them a chance to get back on their feet
I see.
and continue operating.
So it's about recognizing that sometimes businesses make mistakes
Right.
or face unforeseen challenges.
Yeah.
And it's better to have a system that allows for
Mm-hmm.
a graceful exit
Yes.
or a chance for restructuring
Right.
rather than just letting those businesses collapse and
Uh-huh.
potentially taking down others with them.
Exactly. The report looked at the clarity of insolvency laws,
Okay.
the efficiency of bankruptcy courts,
Ah,
the availability of mechanisms
yeah.
for debt restructuring.
Okay.
What they found is that a cumbersome or unpredictable insolvency system
Yeah.
can actually discourage risk-taking,
Yeah.
hinder investment,
Makes sense.
make it harder for businesses to access credit.
Because if the consequences of failure are too severe,
Right.
people will be less likely to take those bold risks
Yeah,
that often lead to innovation and economic growth.
precisely. So it's about striking that delicate balance
Okay.
between providing a safety net for businesses
Right.
while also ensuring that creditors are protected.
It's about creating a system that encourages responsible risk-taking,
Yes.
facilitates the efficient allocation of capital,
Ah.
and ultimately contributes to a more resilient,
Yeah,
dynamic economy overall.
exactly. And that brings us to the heart of what Be Ready is all about.
Oh, this report really is packed with information.
Oh, it is.
It's amazing how all these different aspects of the business environment
Huh?
are so interconnected.
It's not just a checklist of reforms, right?
Yeah.
It's about understanding the system as a whole.
Right.
A holistic approach is key.
Yeah.
And Be Ready really emphasizes that.
It's like a giant puzzle
Yes.
where each piece is essential
Yeah.
for creating the full picture.
Uh-huh.
Understanding how these pieces fit together is crucial
Yeah.
for any country that wants to create a thriving economy.
Exactly. And remember, a thriving private sector
Yeah.
ultimately means more jobs,
Right.
more innovation, and a better quality of life for everyone.
It's not just about business.
Right.
It's about building a better world.
Precisely.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Business Ready 2024,
Yeah.
I have one final question for you.
Okay.
If you were in charge of improving your country's business readiness,
Uh-huh.
what's one area
Hmm.
you'd prioritize and why?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
You know, if I had to pick just one,
Yeah.
I think I'd focus on closing that public services gap we discussed,
Okay.
strengthening the link between those well-crafted regulations
Right.
and the public services that are needed to support them.
Uh-huh.
That can have a ripple effect across all areas of the business environment.
It's about making sure those good intentions on paper
Yeah.
actually translate into real tangible support for businesses on the ground.
Exactly. And that can lead to a more robust, innovative,
Yeah,
and inclusive economy that benefits everyone.
absolutely. Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Business Ready 2024.
It's been my pleasure.
I feel like we've only scratched the surface.
We have.
But hopefully this has given our listeners a clearer picture of the global business landscape
Yeah.
and the factors that really contribute to economic success.
Absolutely.
This is just the beginning. There's so much more to explore in this report,
There is.
and I encourage everyone to dig deeper into the areas that resonate most with them.
I agree.
The journey toward a more business-ready world doesn't end here.
It does not.
Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep pushing for progress in your own corner of the world.
Couldn't have said it better myself.